still tell it to all of them that I said, Isaiah, Samuel, Jeremiah, all of you guys back there, Elijah, you were living in a system, a sacrificial system, a sacrificial religion that did not do you any good. And some of you who cried out against it still ended up watching the nation go down. And today we continue to be down because of your teachings. You have destroyed your nation by prophesying the things you did. And we continue to be destroyed up until this very day, because you left behind a legacy, a teaching, a belief system, an instruction that destroys us. Tell that to every prophet and scribe, whoever wrote those things. Tell them I said that they gave us no hope, they gave us no future, they gave us damnation. That's what they did. Alright, this is June 17, 2018. I've got another lesson in the New Testament is Fake series. This lesson is titled, Without This. I want to start out here by reading a very common verse that people will read when they say the sacrifices of the Old Testament are not from the Creator or the God of Israel. From Psalm 51 verse 17, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit. A broken and a contrite heart, O God, thou wilt not despise. So I wonder if I was living way back then in Old Testament times, and I had this broken spirit and a broken and a contrite heart that wanted to just turn around and do what's right, correct my ways, would I still need an animal sacrifice? Because this here, supported by other verses that run throughout the scriptures, is really saying that the sacrifice is of God. So why do we need these animal sacrifices? And then there were times when the children of Israel were even offering up their children. So they're into human sacrifice, which is no strange thing when you consider that they heartily made a big celebration, supposedly, over the whole Son of God sacrifice at Calvary, who was supposedly crucified. But if we go on and we read here 1 Samuel 15 and verse 22, it says, But Samuel declared, Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, obedience is better than sacrifice, and attentiveness is better than the fat of rams. So again, he's saying the sacrifice that comes from the heart of living clean from your heart, that's better. That's better. And attentiveness, obedience, paying attention to what the Creator says and to what's going on in your heart that prompts you to do the right thing, to not cause offenses and so on, taking advantage of other people, creating or participating in maintaining an unstable world or environment around you for other people and for the creation. Right? Obedience to not let those things happen, but to live in a way that allows the whole earth and those around you to enjoy this creation, then that kind of stuff, I could see the God of Israel smiling at that. And that would be better than offering sacrifices because you just sabotaged your brother, you just stole from this other one, you took their sheep over here, you did all this other stuff, you broke down stuff up there, you hid stuff right here, you broke the commandment, like, bearing false witness and putting some guy across town that you hate in prison for a few years because it would benefit you and because you don't like him anyway, stuff like that, and you could get whatever deals once he's out of the picture. When the commandment says to not do that kind of stuff, don't bear false witness. But you did it because that's how evil you are living from your heart. But when you're living like that, You're doing it because you know you can offer another sacrifice the next high holy day and on the day of atonement and so on. Because you are taught that the sacrifice will deal with your sin, with your transgressions. But if you know that there is no such animal sacrificing that can handle your sins and your breaking of the commandments, that can take care of how much you are transgressing, if you know that, you would be prompted to finding a better way to live, which is simply to keep the commandments, which is simply to live good on the earth, and with the person on your right and the person on your left. Without this animal sacrifice, you would have to find another way for your redemption. Your redemption would simply be in good, clean living. And when we all live like that, wouldn't the world be a better place? Wouldn't Israel have been a better place? Wouldn't Jerusalem have been a better place? Instead, we find that captivity in Babylon is a far worse place than we would like to be. 2 Kings 22 verse 19, because your heart was tender and you humbled yourself before the Lord when you heard what I spoke against this place and against this people, that they would become a desolation and a curse, and because you have torn your clothes and wept before me. See, that's a broken and contrite heart right there. A broken spirit where something is coming from the inside that wants a change, that doesn't want to go that route anymore. You tore your clothes and wept before me. I have heard you. Because it says, a broken and a contrite heart, O God, thou wilt not despise. This is the not despising it, the I have heard you part, from 2 Kings 22:19. Psalm 34:18, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted. He saves the contrite spirit. See, that's where your salvation comes from. It's living from that place in the heart, where you are living clean. You're getting up every day and that's just your normal way to live. You're not doing evil. You're not trying to sabotage people, backstabbing people, working to take other people apart and so on. But you are living from a broken-hearted means you're living from a heart that is changed and wants to turn around. And you're going to make that turn and live well on the earth. Psalm 147:3, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Instead, you are creating wounds in the animals that the Creator made in the first chapter of Genesis. He is saying he will heal up your brokenhearted and bind up your wounds, but you go and you create wounds in his creation that are unnecessary based on the commandments, and are unnecessary based on just how the earth was created. When man was first created on the earth, nobody was killing animals to sacrifice. Obviously, if you sit and think about it, you know that when people talk about this long time ago, like eons ago, Garden of Eden type civilization where the whole earth was at peace and everything was peaceful and there was no evil operating on the earth at that time. Until, like they say, this whole Pandora's box got open. I'm talking before that kind of thing happened. When earth was just the way that we dream it would be. No one would have had a need to kill an animal for any reason. It would have been alien to the mind of those very first humans to just go in a peaceful walk in the woods and butterflies are going by slowly. They're stopping by flowers and then they stop by another one, and they're all around you, and birds are chirping, making their noise, and you're witnessing and seeing all these different little large and small creatures that the Creator made. None of them are attacking you. But in that pristine setting, a condition of the earth, before anything was wrong, you just picked up a weapon and sharpened it, rubbed it on some stone and sharpened it, and just killed one of those creatures. Would that create a rift in the cosmos, on earth? If other people were there at the time and saw you do that, And no one on earth had ever seen violence. Don't you think it would send shock waves inside the hearts, ripples inside the hearts of the people there? They would wonder, what in the world made this man do that? But the God of Israel has his Torah telling you to do just that to animals on high holy days. 147 verse 3 again from Psalms. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. But you create wounds on high holy days in the creatures that he made, slits them and damages them irreversibly until they die. Their blood gushing out and they're twitching and so on. No matter how quick you try to slice them. But your God is saying he will heal your broken hearts and bind up your wounds. But you slit an animal's throat and watch and do nothing to bind it up, because you have been taught that you should kill the creatures that the Creator made, while he promises to bind up your wounds. And you are the one doing the sinning, not the animal. Isaiah 57 verse 15, for thus says the one who is high and lifted up, who inhabits eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in a high and holy place, and with the oppressed and humble of spirit, to restore the spirit of the lowly and revive the heart of the contrite. He's doing stuff even with your spirit. So he's going deeper, deep inside of you, because that's where it really matters. Because you will live on the outside according to what's going on the inside. You will do with your hands acts of healing and caressing and gently touching an animal just to witness the creation that the Creator made and so on. Because that's what's going on in your heart. In your mind or in your spirit, you are exploring as a new human being when the earth was just fresh and brand new, I'm telling you. Nobody's wondering about ozone depletion, ozone this, nothing, whatever, smoke all over the place in the atmosphere and so on. It's just brand new, fresh. You're not going to work. There's no work like that in the regular sense now. Like you just, you notice when man was made, the Torah says on day 6. And then the 7th day, the Sabbath, because you rested on that 7th day. Right? And I'm going to study the Sabbath too in a different way, so you better just wait for that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm telling you, I'm investigating God and I'm checking out every single thing. Everything. But it stands right now. He made man, and immediately after he made the man and put him in the garden, the next day was just time for rest. So man wasn't born to just be killing out himself with work nonstop. You're trying to hold down 2 jobs, and then you're trying to do 2 hours on a 3rd job. I already got 2 jobs. I can only come in one day here just for like 2 hours. But you're doing it because you're desperate. But instead, the Torah is letting you know the first full day that the man had was a day of rest. And so he's going around exploring the creation. He will be putting his hand on the trees, touching stuff on the animals, trying to see if a bird would land in his hand. He wants to figure out stuff. He's just connecting physically by touch with the earth, as his bare feet would be on the ground, and touching the birds, the animals, and so on, whatever, figuring out what they're all about. Trying to find out if they can communicate or how they communicate, stuff like that. So nothing is the problem with earth at that point. But if something else is in your heart that is not right, because you read a Torah, because none of us living now believed in animal sacrifices until we read the Torah and it told us that we should do this. And for a lot of us, we first got that from the New Testament because we were in the Christian church and they said Jesus died for us as a sacrifice, because we didn't know the Torah in those Christian days. So because the New Testament hooked you with a sacrifice that was necessary to kill a man, to kill a lamb man, and have blood flow down for you to be saved and so on and to be connected with God, when you pick up the Torah, it's nothing for you to then believe that the animal sacrifices really was necessary, because they set you up in the New Testament already. So they get us from both ways. If you start with the Torah, having never gone into Christianity, they get you with the animal sacrifices from the start, telling you Cain and Abel, and then going on to telling you that Abraham was lining up birds and whatever, and then all these other animal sacrifices in the Torah. They get you like that by teaching you how necessary it is and how God commanded it is. And then if you come from the other side in Christianity and you've never been in a Torah environment, they get you from that angle as well and tell you that a lamb man is necessary to die, to be killed with blood flowing. So they get us from both angles, no matter whether you start from the front or the back of the book. Look here again, Joel 2 verse 13. So rend your hearts and not your garments. Why? Because a broken and a contrite heart. So what he's saying is, rend something on the inside that you cannot see. And the garments, when he says not your garments, he's saying stay away from rending of stuff on the outside that you can see. Rend your heart that you cannot see. In other words, a broken and a contrite spirit, and a broken heart, a humbled heart, but not the outward thing, your garment, that you can see, which is a way of communicating to you. Make a change happen in your heart. Let the things die in your heart that should not be there. Instead of doing something on the outside, like killing an animal that you can physically put your hand on, like you can physically grab your garments and rend them. Rend your hearts and not your garments. Change your heart, right? And not change the life or the existence of the animal, the lamb, the bull, and cause them to cease to exist. That's what he's trying to say to you. Now look at Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 6. And see, I'm teaching these things for the people who are really searching and really want to consider these things. Isaiah 2 verse 6, it says, Therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they be replenished from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they please themselves in the children of strangers. So he's saying that they basically became like other people. So he forsook them, because by becoming like other people, they took on the practices of the other people. That's the KJV. Look at how the NIV says it. Or no, look at the Berean Study Bible. For you have abandoned your people, the house of Jacob, because they are filled with influences from the east. They are soothsayers like the Philistines. They strike hands with the children of foreigners. You see, my understanding as I dig into this more and more is that there were no animal or flesh sacrifices commanded by the Most High for a right relationship with Him. Yet the Torah is filled with so many of these flesh sacrifices, and that is what the New Testament is built on, as Calvary cruxes on these animal sacrifices and human sacrifices in the Torah that the Creator hates. So then Calvary must be fake. Has to be fake. He's telling you in the Old Testament that the superior way to deal with me is to change your heart, broken and contrite heart and so on. Turn around from the way that you're living and from the practices of the other nations. Turn around. So he is not into any of these animal sacrifices. He's saying change your heart. The thing that you cannot see, your heart, and not the thing that you can see on the outside. Let something be done to that which you cannot see, your heart on the inside, instead of doing something to a lamb or a bull on the outside that you can see. That's why the Most High would not send his so-called Son to die on Calvary. He never had no son Jesus sitting up in heaven, or in the Hebrew name you want to call him by. So the very idea and teaching in the New Testament that the Creator sent his son to die on Calvary is antithetical itself to the scriptures in the Torah that I just read, that are saying, change your heart, let the change happen inside of you, and you will begin to live out that change. Do something with what is on the inside of you that cannot be seen, your heart. But the Creator is going to send his son so you can do something physically to his son that you can see, and put your hand down and put crown of thorns on him and whip him and put him on a cross and nail him up on that cross. When he's teaching you in the Old Testament that the change should be done regarding something you cannot see, but you lay your eyes and your hands upon his so-called son and put him on Calvary and say that agrees with the teaching from the Torah from the Creator, that is so wrong. Calvary is fake. And so if false prophets did not rise up in Israel in the Old Testament and teach these abominable things that they learned from the other nations of the East, then Israelites back then, and even today, would have learned a different way to deal with the Most High. Not by animal sacrificing. Without animal sacrificing, the world would still be working on a way to have a better existence. Because notice that while they were doing the animal sacrifices, there was hell on earth as nations were fighting left, right, and center. One kingdom trying to take over another, and they will kill anyone just to get it done. Pharaohs rose to power in Egypt by killing each other just to get to the top. And you see that happening today. People were making chariots and bow and arrow and all kinds of things that they made up, all kinds of weapons of war and the spear and so on, and shields and so on, just to fight and to conquer and to kill their neighbor. And sometimes we even had civil wars, infighting inside of a land. But people are killing each other, even though these nations, plus the nation of Israel, were all doing animal sacrifices. Well, maybe not every single nation did, but quite a bit of them, at least the ones in the Bible. They're doing all these animal sacrificing. And with these animal sacrificing, the world was going downhill from way back then in ancient times. And we see that today it's still going downhill. Now, according to the Bible and the way they teach it today, bouncing between the Old and New Testament, they say sacrifices are not needed right now. For whatever reason they say Jesus gave the sacrifice, so it's not needed. Or some are saying we need to wait for whatever, blah, blah, blah. But basically they're saying no sacrifice now, since Israel went into captivity. So that's a couple thousand years. 2,500 years. So no sacrifice is needed now until the future times when more prophecies are fulfilled. What we find is that the world is in the same condition today with no sacrifices of animals. Just like, let me say that again. Sorry, that horn threw me off. What we find today is that with no sacrifices being done officially, the world is in a terrible condition with people bombing and killing and stealing and just doing all kinds of evil things together. Nations are still fighting and making new bombs to kill each other, to drop on each other, and so on. So the world is in a terrible place now with no animal sacrifices being done officially. But we find that in the Old Testament, when they had the sacrifices that would solve the problems because God was going to give them a good life because of the sacrifices they were offering unto him that pleased him according to the Bible, the world was still in a terrible condition and nations were fighting against each other non-stop. Even within the nation of Israel in the scriptures, there were infightings among them until all kinds of laws were there just to curtail them from some of their evil. People even raping, one Israelite raping another Israelite and so on. There had to be laws for that. You see how bad it was? People stealing from each other in the nation of Israel itself back then. And all these things were going on even though they were offering the so-called animal sacrifices of the Torah that would please God supposedly. So what we find is that the world was in chaos back then with animal sacrifices from Israel and the other nations, and the world has no official animal sacrificial system set up now that can be linked to the Torah as far as this teaching goes. But today, with no sacrificial system up and running, the world is still in a chaotic situation. Still, people now are scared about going into FEMA camps, and they're scared about having to eat more GMO foods, and they're scared about, is the bomb going to drop where I'm at? I better flee and leave Babylon. Other people are like crying out, and they want food, they want medication, they want whatever, their foot blown off, they need medical assistance, stuff like that. All kinds of things. The world is in chaos, the same way today as it was back then. So what we find then is that in a world of animal sacrificing that was heavy in ancient times, and in a world of no sacrificing, there is no difference. Still chaos across the board. So tell me, why is sacrifice necessary of animals? Why? Why is animal sacrifice and human sacrifice necessary? It don't make any difference. The same trouble you had in the sacrificial times is the same troubles you're having now in the non-sacrificial times. So basically, if you had no sacrifices in the Old Testament, people would be forced to find a different way to find some kind of proper connection with the Most High and to find a better existence as far as the Most High blessing them and so on and having a good life and so on. Well, it's the same for today. With no sacrificial system today, people are forced now to finding a better way to have a better existence in this life. I mean, that's why people are lobbying and pushing for this, that, and whatever. They're trying to find a better ways. They want laws struck down or new laws made to help the situation. They're trying to vote in this and that leader because they believe they will get this and that. So basically, it don't matter whether you have sacrifice or not. But sacrifice is a crutch. Without a sacrifice, we would have been farther along in the history of earth. Because instead of other nations plus Israel sacrificing back then, some sacrificing to their other gods and Israel sacrificing to their gods plus the gods of the other nations, as Israel just gave it like a double thing, we'll sacrifice unto our God and we'll sacrifice unto your gods as well, because, you know, that's just how they did it. So if Israel did not have those sacrifices being taught to them in the Torah, they would have been forced to find a different way to interact with the Most High. But because they did not do that by looking for a different way, and they stuck with the old-time initial run-of-the-mill sacrifice that the whole earth was doing, nobody in Israel matured. No prophet matured. No priest, no high priest matured, no scribe matured, because they kept writing the same thing no matter how long, even all the way up until Babylon. They kept scribing the same stuff. Do your animal sacrifice, do your animal sacrifice, do your animal sacrifice. You see, something is wrong. These are children. They are children. Every Israelite priest and scribe and prophet and so on that taught these things, they were children. I got more sense than them. Thanks to the Most High. Because I believed it too all my life up until now. But they were children, they were childish. If something isn't working, you got to try and find another way to get it done. To see if maybe there is some other way. But people don't grow up, we just remain children like when we were first created on the earth and went astray. And we never say, maybe it's because we are astray why the earth continues to be this way. No wonder you got people out there saying, all these religions of the earth are causing the palms. Because they can see that religions just don't change earth. Just like it did not change ancient Israel. With all their religious observances and all their special high holy days and feasts that no other nation was given. It did them absolutely no good. Zero good. And if you can somehow go back in time, tell that to Isaiah, although I like Isaiah and Samuel and so on, but still tell it to all of them that I said, Isaiah, Samuel, Jeremiah, all of you guys back there, Elijah, You were living in a system, a sacrificial system, a sacrificial religion that did not do you any good, and some of you who cried out against it still ended up watching the nation go down. And today we continue to be down because of your teachings. You have destroyed your nation by prophesying the things you did. And we continue to be destroyed up until this very day, because you left behind a legacy, a teaching, a belief system, an instruction that destroys us. Tell that to every prophet and scribe, whoever wrote those things. Tell them I said that they gave us no hope, they gave us no future, they gave us damnation. That's what they did. Earth struggled 2, 3, 4,000 years ago, just like the nation of Israel struggled with all the sacrifices. And today earth still struggles because we're still believing the same things and no one wants to change too much except just a few people. And Israel never grew up. And with all the sacrificing that Israel did up until blood flowed down like a river down the Kidron Valley, their sacrifices were not enough to just flow over and save another nation beside them. When we're in the Christian church, Holy Ghost drop and big meeting going on, visiting preaching and so on, until somebody who's not even going to church, doesn't care, just like we used to call them sinners in those days, would just hear the service, the clapping and the loud singing and whatever and the preaching, and just come and want to look in and get saved. And before the night is over, somebody who was just on their way home and didn't care about going to church got quote unquote saved in the Christian church, because of all the praising and the singing and the sacrifice of praise that Christians were doing in the church. And the people passing by heard it. It flowed over, a joyful noise unto the Lord. But Israel did a ton load of sacrifices, and not one nation around Israel could say something flowed over unto us from your many, many sacrifices, your many thousands or millions of sacrifices that you've done over the years, that make us want to change, that make us want to change as a whole nation. Now I'm saying it never flowed over. Such powerful connection with the Creator. People want to go back to Tepe and all the other special places that they find on earth because they're spiritually charged with this, that, and the other. Stonehenge, spiritually charged and whatever. To get something that they believe was deposited in the soil or in that area at the time, or charged the stones and so on. They want to go back there to do all that stuff. But Israel's sacrifice to the Most High did not charge the place and surrounding areas enough to deliver a nation or to give salvation or a change of lifestyle to other nations around them. Why didn't it flow over? If you are next door to me and in your house you have a visitation from God, and God comes down in rumbling and thunder and so on and lightning, shake up your house, wouldn't it vibrate? Wouldn't I feel a vibration in my house? The earth shaking and shaking up my house, the stuff rumbling and rattling like a little earthquake, shaking up everything on my desk and so on, and in my house, my fridge starting to move. I'm like, what? It's going to fall over, my microwave falling off, everything. Because God has come down in your house next to mine. And I can feel it, I can sense the sensation of quote unquote God. But Israel had mighty demonstrations of the visible, so-called visible presence of God. Thunder, lightning, smoke. And not one nation beside them says, we will all turn over, as far as I can recall. Something is wrong with the sacrificial system. It does not connect one to God. It disconnects from God. Without this sacrificial system, that made no difference in ancient times to Israel and the other nations who did it, the same way there is no difference on earth today when we are not having sacrifices. Without the animal sacrificial system, people would be forced to find a better way to please the Most High and to live on the earth by the heart. Because he did say it's going to be by your heart, a broken and a contrite heart. He said, I'm not going to despise. And here again, now just to close off, I'll read 2 or 3 more verses without saying anything on them. Proverbs 15 verse 8, the sacrifice of the wicked is detestable to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. Isaiah 1 verse 11, what is your multitude of sacrifices to me, says the Lord? I am full from the burnt offerings of rams and the fat of well-fed cattle. I take no delight in the blood of bulls, or lambs and goats. Isaiah 1:16, wash and cleanse yourselves. Remove your evil deeds from my sight. Stop doing evil. Hosea 6 verse 6, for I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Hosea 6 verse 6, for I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Hosea 6 verse 6, for I desire mercy, not sacrifice, and the knowledge of God, rather than burnt offerings. Without sacrificing, you would be forced to consider another way. I'm sure that would be living from your heart.